Welcome to new session of strategic management. Today we have three objectives to study. First, let us try to understand the definition of strategy which were given by management gurus and critically analyze those definitions. Second, what are the features of strategy, and we'll conclude this video lecture with understanding what are the functions of strategy. In line 2, evolution of strategy in terms of ancient military strategy and development of strategic management as a course. Let us move forward and try to understand the contribution of management thinkers. Peter Drucker had to say about competition back in the late 50s and early 60s. He really only talked about one thing, and that was competition on price. It was this received opinion Michael Porter was questioning when in 1979 he mapped out four additional competitive forces in how competitive forces shape strategy. Price competition can't be all there is to it. In his book, What is Strategy? Porter argues against bevy of alternative views, both old and then new, that were circulating in the intervening years. In particular, he takes issue with the views that the strategy is defined in the following ways. Michael Porter says that strategy is looked from multi-view perspective. First, he says that strategy is a matter of seeking a single ideal competitive position in an industry. Let me put that into a very simple example, which we discussed. Apple has created something very unique in terms of its product, and that has led to an ideal competitive position in the sector in which Apple is, be it laptop or be it smartphone. That is what it has created an ideal competitive position. Similarly, in case of online portals, Amazon has created an ideal competitive position. So here we can see that Amazon has created an ideal competitive positioning strategy in a sector of online purchase, online retail counter, online stores, online e-commerce. That is what is called strategy in first point. Second, strategy is also a matter of benchmarking and adopting best practices. Now, in simple, what is best benchmarking is something which is standardized, which is the best in the sector, in the industry, and we try to adopt that for the benefit of the organization. That is called as benchmarking. Kaizen, which is a continuous improvement, was applicable in the production, but now it is applicable in service sector also. Something which was applicable in production is being implemented now in service sector, that is called as benchmarking, and that is what we need to analyze in terms of we need to adopt something with a with the basic intention. It is nothing but search of excellence. We need to be very excellent if it is manufacturing. We need to do the best if it is technology. We need to do the best if we are in service sector. Whatever sector it is, we need to identify the best practices and deliver it, which benefits both the organization as well as the consumer. Third matter of strategy can be defined as strategy is an aggressive outsourcing and partnering to improve efficiencies. Perhaps a reference to the origins of strategy published in the year 1989 by the granddaddy of strategic consultant BCG founder Bruce Henderson. He says that no company or no individual will have all the things which are required to execute the task the best way. What he can do, either he can partner with one more individual or get that activity outsourced from a third party. Dear students, this is applicable for the organization also. If you try to look into examples, Many companies have only marketing which is very strong and manufacture is done by third party. For example, Hindustan Unilever Limited have many products which are marketed by Hindustan Unilever Limited but manufactured by companies. This is also applicable to pharma industry. Pharma industry, you may say, take a strip or take a bottle of syrup you purchase. At the back, you will see it is been manufactured by the company which you are not aware of, but it is marketed by a or now company which is very well known to you. This is a classical example of partnering, wherein one company is strong in manufacturing, other company is synergizing their strength, which is called as marketing. Outsourcing is in very general, very simple. It is carrying out a task by third party and the organization is not involved in. If you look at the present scenario, in case of recruitment and selection, most of the companies have adopted outsourcing as a strategy when they need to opt for recruitment and selection. What does its implication? Its implication is the company is not to worry regarding recruitment and selection process, but definitely company would provide what is the job description and what are the qualifications which are sought for a particular post for the company which is going to outsource the employees. So that is what happens. And what is the benefit to the company? There are various labor laws. The company does not have that to be followed because the recruitment is through third party. Now it has been applicable in most of the companies. The third party recruitment has started, which is a classical example of outsourcing. Also, strategy is a matter of view of focusing on key success factor, critical resources, and core competencies. These are very important points which an organization needs to analyze in its internal environment. There are 5 M's of resources which we have discussed in our first semester, but those resources are not available in ample, so the resources become very critical. When they are critical, their importance in the organization also goes up, hence its utility and its contribution to the cost is to be considered. So these resources are to be maintained and processed the best organization can think of. We need to identify what are those factors which will make manufacturing as a strong process or marketing as a very strong process. If you adapt those success factors, you are going to succeed in an organization. Identifying, working, implementing, and evaluation of such factors will be analyzed and required. Then we'll need to analyze what are the core competencies. Some of the core companies do have very core competency in marketing. They're very strong in marketing in a particular area, in a particular domain, with certain products. They will be very strong. We need to identify what are those which will help us to be in the. This was very well carried out, and maybe we'll try to understand that in the next chapters to come. What is critical success factor? What are the resources and core competencies when we talk about organizational environment or internal environment? This is very important because it was carried out by C.K. Prahlad, Honorable C.K. Prahlad, who identified in his article the core competency of the organization. Similarly, strategy is a matter of rapidly responding to ever evolving competitive and market changes. Here we need to understand that we are presently in a market which is ever evolving, and moreover there is a cutthroat competition coming up. There are two reasons for it. One, technology updation is very fast, which has two intention, which has fastest delivery of services or products to the customer, and moreover there is less human intervention, which has offered high satisfaction parameters to the customers. And moreover, due to the changes in technology, the market is going to change because the needs, the preferences of the customers are going to change, and simultaneously we need to look into that. Strategy plays a very important role in response of the company to ever evolving competitive and market changes. I would like to put that in a very simple words. We have always seen example of Coke and Pepsi. if an ad is updated and aired on television by company A, in no time or in very few duration or short duration of time, you find company B hitting back to the competitor with a modified ad. That is what is called a strategy. What made that was it was aired and it is going to have an impact on the customer. That is what we need to look into. One more classical example which we can discuss here is the re-emergence of brand Royal Enfield. The Royal Enfield was not able to sustain in the market, was almost going to be bankrupt, but the turnaround strategy of the company helped, and today the sales of Royal Enfield are very well known to us. Similarly, it has created a response in the market also. When Royal Enfield succeeded, Java also came into market with new improved versions as a direct competition which was created to Royal. So this is the strategy which has made both the companies to come in the market, come up with new design, new features and new benefits which are offered to the company through the two-wheelers which they have launched in a particular market, and which has created a very huge market in a country like India. That is what is called as strategy, very well considered and explained by Michael Porter. So generally if you look at, he has tried to see that in this point for strategy is a matter of 5 points which he has tried to mention. In simple, let us try to have ideal competitive positioning, benchmarking, outsourcing and partnering. That is what we can look here. What he's talked about was, let it be ideal competitive position. Can you create? Think of it. Second, Porter also talked about adopting best practices, whether they are in the sector or your competitor or different sector. Let us try to adopt that in our organization. Also, we need to understand of what is outsourcing and partnering, which we have discussed. Moreover, he is also talking and trying to analyze strategy in terms of key success factor, critical resources, and core competency. Overall, your response to the market is what we need to look at. Like to the rapid response we do to the competition and to the market is what we need to look upon. Let us try to understand in the next part with respect to what are the other definitions which the management thinkers are trying to talk about. If you remember, in ancient Greece, the term strategos was used in the military science and implied the plan to win a battle. However, in business, strategies are more about understanding the competition and preparing a plan to match or surpass the potential of rivals. On this, we'll try to define strategy as the direction and scope of the organization over the long term. It helps achieve an advantage for the organization through its configuration of resources within a challenging environment to meet the needs of the market and fulfill the stakeholders' expectation. Let us try to break down this definition and look into few words. It talks about giving a direction. It is talking about scope, what is to be done, what is not. If I am strong in agricultural product, my scope is agriculture. I would not think of pharma sector unless and until it is decided by top management and a very good strategy is decided. You are talking about direction and scope of the organization, which is not short term, which is long run. Short term is called as tactics. Strategy is always long run. Why we are going to do so? We are going to do so because we want to achieve, what is that? Achieve an advantage to the organization, and this advantage is in terms of resources we have. I said all the organization have same resources. One organization is successful by selling the product at rupees 20, other organization is not able to success or reap profits even if the product is sold at 25 rupees. What is that? How well the resources are utilized, how the cost is controlled is again a very, very important point. And most important, why are we trying to give an advantage to the organization? We are trying to give the organization because of two important things. We need to meet the needs of the market, and we need to think of a stakeholder expectation. Now if you talk about market, the question may arise in your mind that when we talk about what is a market is a place where buyers and sellers come together. Means there are three people involved. There is a buyer, there is a seller, and there is a buyer and there is a seller. So market will have n number of buyers and sellers. Can you meet the needs of that market with respect to resources you have, with respect to the direction you have fixed? That is what we need to analyze in this definition of strategy. And moreover, stakeholders stands the most important aspect. Now you may ask the question, who are stakeholders? Stakeholders are those who have involved in your organization by investment. They are having equity shares in a company. So they are more interested in knowing whatever is the amount invested by them, what is the return you are going to give them through various activities which you are going to plan. That is what this definition of strategy talks about. If you try to break down this definition, I take home very clear words here. I take that strategy gives direction, strategy talks about scope, strategy is always long term, strategy is creating advantage through resources, markets, and reason is stakeholder expectation. Means डायरेक्शन स्टार्ट करते हैं और एंड में हम स्टेक होल्डर एक्सपेक्टेशन की बात करते हैं. इस पूरे प्रोसेस को अचीव करना है तो हमें स्ट्रेटेजी के बारे में सोचना पड़ेगा. Let us move forward to one more definition of strategy. Dear students, as we have discussed, strategy is all about the choices that business make about how to achieve their objective. What does it tells about is that we are very clear what are our objectives and what are strategies. Strategy is nothing but the choices that an organization will make so that the predetermined objectives or objectives fixed by the organizations are achieved. In this context, we move to the next definition, which was given by Johnson and Scholes. They have beautifully defined strategy as direction and scope of the organization over long term, which achieves advantage for the organization through its configuration of resources with a challenging environment to meet the needs of market and to the fulfill stakeholders expectation. That is what we have tried to understand in the last definition also. That is what is given by Johnson Scholars, a structured definition given now. From this I can really come out with that other words, strategy is about where business is trying to get into long term strategic direction. कहाँ जा रहे हैं हम, क्यों जा रहे हैं हम? The direction which I'm going to analyze is the first thing the strategy is going to talk about. Second, which market should the business compete in, what kind of activities are involved in such markets, whom I should compete and whom I should not. If I want to compete, then what are the type of activities which I should get involved in such market. Third, strategy also talks about how the business perform better than its competition in those markets. How I can perform better, or who are those competitors who are prevailing in the market, and which is the one which is best, and what are the reasons for being the best in that market. I should also analyze, when you talk about strategy, about the resources, like what resources like skills, assets, finance, technical competencies, facilities are required to be able to compete. Here I put into a very simple example. Many of you would be aware of manufacturing units in Himachal Pradesh, Parvanu and Baddi. Many people shifted from other states to Himachal Pradesh to gain benefits which were offered by Himachal Pradesh as a state for starting manufacturing unit, and hence many of the companies shifted. So when they shifted, what was the tax benefit and what was the logistics cost that was duly considered by the company before they took a call to shift the manufacturing unit to Himachal Pradesh. In addition, this definition also talks about what external and environmental factors affects the businesses, and moreover ability to compensate those factors or to compete with those factors needs to be analyzed when we talk about strategy. And most important, strategies are nothing but are the values and expectations of the stakeholder who had interest and power over the business. This is what Johnson and scholars have tried to make us understand in terms of the deeper way to know six different aspects of strategy: strategic direction, market, performance, resources, external environment, and value and expectations of stakeholders. With this, let us move to the next point and try to understand what are the features of strategy. With the two definitions which we have already analyzed, now we can also think that strategy can be defined as knowledge of the goals, the uncertainty of events, and the need to take into consideration the likely or actual behavior of others, because we are in market, means there are competitors, there are other companies also available. That means strategy is a blueprint of decision in an organization that shows its objectives and goals. It also talks about policies and plans which an organization will make to achieve the goals and objectives which are pre-decided. It also talks about defining the business company is to carry, the type of economic and human organization it wants to be, that the society should look at, and the contribution it plans to make it to its shareholders, customers, and society at large is in broader sense can be considered as a strategy. Which makes me to move to next point: what are the features of strategy? Strategy is significant because it is not possible to foresee the future. Most important point here we can easily analyze is not possible to see the future, that means uncertain. If you are not having a good foresight or proactive, then it would be very difficult for an organization to fight with uncertain events. And uncertainty and volatility are bound to happen in most important, which is called as business environment. Again the word has come, business environment. Remember, business environment is external environment because it would be beyond the control of the organization. So anticipating foresightness of the company to view those uncertain events and to nullify their impact on the organization is to be looked into. Second feature of strategy talks about strategy will always deal with, remember, it will deal always with long term. It will never talk about routine operation. Routine operations are something which is short term, and strategic actions are always long term development. Means when I talk about long term development, I would be talking about new products, new methods of production, new market, new segments, modification in product, modification in technology, how well I can have a greater share of wallet from the customer. That is what I will look when I talk about the strategic management. And third important feature is strategy is created to take into account the probable behavior of the customer, and we are trying to anticipate that this is what could be the response of the consumer or the competitor if I come up with a product in a given market. Whatever are the strategies which is to be used or which is to be implemented, we need to have a very strong consideration of three important parts which constitutes very important thing for an organization: is its employee, You can talk about its customers, and then you need to talk about the next important point, which is related to competitors. So we need to know and understand the psychological behavior of the customer, competitors, and employees in the features of strategy. Take home from this slide, very simple. Strategy is to view something, view for future. And when you view for future, we are concentrating on uncertainty. Uncertainty will have an impact on the organization. How we can have minimal impact is what we need to analyze. COVID pandemic is going to have an impact on each and every organization in any sector you name. Some of the sectors may have a positive effect, some of the sector may have new negative effect. Those having negative effects will try to analyze how they can get converted into the green with respect to the problems they are facing. Strategy is always long term. Remember, long term, new product, new market, new range, new segment, new modifications in technology, coming up with new technology, and moreover, we have to think about three important aspects when we talk about strategy in terms of behavior, that is customer, competitor, and employee behavior. With this, let us try to move to the next part. As continuously we are being hit with the definitions of strategy, strategy is nothing but a well defined roadmap of the organization. What does it mean? Means it would have many things coming into picture which will give a direction to the organization. It is mission, vision, and finally direction to the organization will be given. The objective of the strategy is always to maximize the organization's strengths and minimize the strengths of the competitor or its own weaknesses. In short, the strategy's job is to bridge the gap between where we are and where we want to be. That is what, where we are. I am studying now in MBA. It's the third semester. Where I want to be, I want to be through competitive examination. I want to be in one of the best company to work with the great culture. For that, whatever is required, the strategy has to be prepared, and that is what strategy talks about. Strategy will create a bridge. Sitting today in a class of MBA third semester, and after 1 year sitting as a entry level position in one of the best company in the organization, that two things are linked through a bridge, and that bridge is called as strategy. So it makes very essential for us to also understand what are the functions of strategy. The first function is, the first function which we are trying to analyze is strategy is responsible for development of company strategy and vision. Means for company to move forward, to get directed with an accelerator, it should have an accelerator to do, and that acceleration is generally through vision and mission of the organization. This vision and mission is nothing but is an essence which tells about means and purpose of the existence of the organization. क्यों बनी है ये company? That is what we need to analyze. And moreover, it also involves development of the company strategy in order to chart out its future growth pattern based on some specific action. After 1 year, I want to have a market share of 12.5%. That is what I have charted out, which is my future growth pattern. More precisely, 1%, 2% increase in market share in a specific segment I need to talk about. So strategic management identifies what those actions will be, and then shares those with the team that will implement it. My vision and mission will be the starting point, which will help me to decide where my organization needs to go, and strategy will help me in achieving the ways by which I will reach to achieve. So strategic management plays a very important role in creating a starting point of an activity of an organization, which is company's vision and mission statement. Second, strategic management also plays a very important role in identification of products and market. Growth for an organization means constant innovation. Why you need to have a constant innovation? To maintain your competitive edge, as well as you want to protect or increase the existing market share. And hence, one of the functions of the strategic management is to identify new products, new geographies that organization need to explore. When I talk about new geographies, I am trying to cover new market which I have not covered. I am trying to cover new market. Reason is I would like to go for an expansion mode. It also means that evaluation of the viability of the existing product or service and market, and assessment whether we should continue in the existing market or not, or shall we create or work upon new markets at a different geographical location. That is what we need to put across. In short, when we talk about identification of products and market, strategic management will also try to analyze the ability of the companies to envision the new ways of operation, to weather the crisis, and to lead the next normal. They would ask certain question in case of this. How customers need will change. Let us take an example of COVID situation. Companies sitting will directly think that post COVID, what could be the change in the customer needs? COVID-19 says social distancing. Second question, immediately the company thinks, how should we create human like interaction with customer who they have never physically seen or met? Can we bring technology and replace human in the interaction with the customer, which would be very safe in case of post COVID situation? How can we deliver innovative digital offerings within days or week when we have failed to deliver from years? Classical example, online mode of teaching was never thought of. Today, February, February 18, March 18th, I suppose the lockdown was declared, and immediately within a week, every institute, every educational institute was on board with its online methodology, which was never done. That was forced. Means there could be a change which come into picture. Similarly, this pre-COVID situation will warrant companies to reinvent their supply chain without tying up more capital, and that is what they have done. If you see, the Amazon have boosted up its storage capacity because the demand for the online products have gone up, but they need to deliver that online products which are safe. If safety is taken care of, people will move more towards online product. And more precisely, we need to see that COVID is going to have an impact on operations. Can we shift the operation to variable cost structure is what financially every organization will look into, and the strategic management will role would come into picture in case of how it is going to get implemented at the end of the day. Third, strategic management also plays a very important role because it talks about focus on company's brand positioning. Every company has a brand value and position that people identify by it. So what does strategic management means? Strategic management means upholding, sustaining and reinforcing their brand positioning. This is done by ensuring that the strategy is aligned to the brand as well as for internal and external action. Let me put here a very simple example. Everybody is knowing the brand Fair and Lovely. The company is Hindustan Unilever Limited. I was just going through an article, latest article, wherein I came to know that Hindustan Unilever Limited is dropping the word fair from its iconic skin brand Fair and Lovely, the country's top consumer goods company. And why? Because of the amid global outrage and anti-racism protest which are triggered by police killing of an African American in the US last month. See the external factor impact on the brand name. itself. Also, not only when Hindustan Unilever is trying to think, it has an impact in the market. Its competitor, rival Imami is also trying to see that what can be done to change the brand name Fair and Handsome to some other. That is what they have come into. And even the name is finalized. Now try to understand the immediate action taken by a situation which we should never worry about. But company did it. Try to understand, company is trying to position their image in such a way that it does not hamper the sales of the product. A very big market, so few crores of market is there for Fair and Lovely. Fair and Handsome created a beautiful segment coming up. It's that whether it is a men's cream or women cream, but again they also contributed to create two different markets. Deep dive into that market is now benefiting both the companies. But the strategy initiated by Hindustan Unilever Limited has forced Imami also think that what should be a replacement for the brand, for the word Fair in Fair and Handsome. Fourth function mentioned is alignment across businesses or departments. Alignment is in line with various businesses and various departments that organization runs into. Strategic management ensures that no business segment or department in the organization is working in silos. Organization strategic management makes or connects each and every element or segment or department in the organization. Means when planning is going to take place, the views of all the departments and the businesses are to be considered. The final decisions can be shared and discussed to ensure that there is an alignment of the organizational purposes and goals. That is what is the role of strategic management in connecting, in interconnecting various business segments, various departments in terms of views, in terms of sharing, in terms of discussion, so that a very concrete plan takes place. That is what is the role of strategic management. And last, strategic management plays a very vital role not only in business but corrective action as and when required. The planning is similar to SWOT analysis, which identifies new opportunities and threats to the existing business as well to the new business which is projected. It also means that one of the function is to course correct the business performance in case it is not following the right growth rate. Means immediate strategic actions are to be taken if I'm not able to meet the targets or I'm not on track for which my objectives are framed. I need to look into that. With this, I conclude my video with a recap of what we covered. We covered with what are the various definitions and tried critically to analyze the different definitions. We also looked into what are the features of scientific management, and then we concluded with respect to what are the functions of some functions of the strategic management. Thank you.